I wasn't planning to get revenge that day. But when a city officer showed up at my door because my kids were too loud, I knew something was off. And the worst part? The complaint didn't come from a stranger. It came from the same neighbor my kids had been helping for weeks. Shoveling her snow, checking on her, even buying treats for her dogs. So when I found out it was her, I didn't argue. I didn't confront her. Instead, I came up with a plan. Something so quiet, so simple, that every single night, she would regret it. It wasn't even supposed to turn into revenge. That's the funny part. It started as just a normal day. Or at least, what passes for a normal day where I live. If you've never lived somewhere where winter basically eats half your life, let me explain. Cold isn't just weather here. It's a lifestyle. 6 months of snow. Sometimes more. Endless gray skies. Frozen air that bites your lungs the moment you step outside. So when we finally get one of those rare, slightly warmer days, you take advantage of it. No excuses. That morning felt different. The kind of cold that wasn't painful. Just crisp. Manageable. So I did what any parent would do after being trapped inside with kids for weeks. I kicked them outside. Go play, I told them. And they didn't argue. Because even they were tired of being stuck indoors. Within minutes, the backyard turned into chaos. Laughter. Shouting. Snow flying everywhere. They built forts. Declared imaginary wars. Started launching snowballs like it was a full-on battlefield. And honestly, it was loud. But not in a bad way. It was the sound of kids finally being kids again. After months of being cooped up. Our property isn't huge. About a 1/4 acre. Enough space to breathe, but not enough to disappear from your neighbors. To the north, our neighbor had 4 dogs. Big ones. Loud ones. They were outside too. Running around. Barking non-stop. But it wasn't aggressive barking. It was excited. Happy. The kind of noise that just blends into the background of a normal neighborhood. On the other side, South Side neighbors had their kids out too. Same situation. Same energy. Same chaos. Honestly, the entire street felt alive for once. And for about 30 minutes. Everything was perfect. Then came the knock. Not loud. Not aggressive. But enough to instantly feel off. I opened the door. And standing there was a bylaw officer. Now normally, that would be stressful. But here's the thing. I knew him. We weren't friends exactly. But we'd crossed paths enough times. So instead of tension, there was just confusion. What's up? I asked. He gave me a look. Half serious. Half amused. Got a noise complaint, he said. I blinked. A noise complaint? He nodded. Now, I actually laughed. Because at first, I thought he was joking. You serious? I said. He shrugged. Had to come check it out. I stepped aside and gestured toward the backyard. Be my guest. He walked around the side of the house. And the moment he saw the scene. Kids laughing. Snowballs flying. Dogs barking in the distance. He stopped. And just started laughing. Not a polite chuckle. A real laugh. He turned back to me, shaking his head. I'm gonna be honest, he said. This might be the most ridiculous complaint I've had all week. I crossed my arms. Let me guess. He raised an eyebrow. Neighbor to the north? He didn't say anything. But the look on his face said everything. Then he muttered something under his breath. Some people really shouldn't call in complaints over kids playing. He stopped himself, clearly trying to stay professional. But the message was clear. I knew exactly who it was. And suddenly, that perfect day didn't feel so perfect anymore. Because this wasn't just about noise. This was about something else. Something that had been building for a while. You see, the neighbor to the north? She wasn't a bad person. Not really. Most days, she was actually pretty nice. Polite. Friendly. But then there were other days. Days where something felt off. Short temper. Irritated tone. Complaints about everything. And lately? Those days were happening more often. But this? Calling the city over kids playing? After everything? That's what got to me. Because here's the part that made it personal. My kids had been helping her. A lot. She had ankle surgery not too long ago. Couldn't shovel her driveway. So my kids did it. Without being asked. Without expecting anything in return. They'd go over. Clear the snow. Say hi to her dogs. They even spent their own money buying treats for those dogs. And now, this is what we get? A noise complaint? I didn't say anything to the officer. He finished his check. Wrote nothing. Left. But the moment the door closed, something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Just irritation. The kind that sits quietly. And grows. Because I wasn't looking for a fight. I didn't want drama. But at the same time, this didn't feel right. And that's when the idea started forming. Small at first. Almost like a joke. Something petty. Something harmless. Something that wouldn't start a war. But would still send a message. And over the next few days, that idea turned into a plan. A very specific, very quiet, very satisfying plan, because what she didn't know was that within a week, every single night in her house would turn into chaos. I didn't act right away. That's the thing about real revenge. It's not emotional. It's calculated. The day the bylaw officer showed up, yeah, it annoyed me. A lot. But I didn't go next door. I didn't knock on her door. Didn't argue. Didn't even mention it. Because reacting immediately? That's what people expect. And I didn't want to give her that. Instead, I watched. For the next few days, I paid attention. More than usual. Her routine. Her habits. Her patterns. Not in a creepy way. Just observant. She let her dogs out multiple times a day. Early morning. Afternoon. Late at night. And those dogs? They weren't quiet. Not even close. They barked at everything. Wind. Shadows. Nothing. And normally, I didn't care. Because that's just life. But now I noticed something different. The irony. She had reported my kids for making noise during the day, while her dogs were basically running a nightly concert. That's when the idea came back. That small thought from before? It started getting clearer. Sharper. I wasn't going to fight her directly. I was going to let her own situation turn against her. And the best part? I didn't have to break a single rule. That was important. Because I wasn't trying to get in trouble. I was trying to make a point. A quiet one. The kind that builds slowly. The kind that gets under your skin. The kind that you can't prove. So I started thinking. What bothers people the most? Not loud, obvious problems, but small, consistent annoyances. The kind that repeat. Night after night. Just enough to ruin your peace. Just enough to make you frustrated. Just enough to make you question everything. And that's when it clicked. Her dogs. They were the key. Not because I wanted to hurt them, but because I understood something. Dogs react to sound, to movement, to triggers. And if something small kept triggering them, they would bark. A lot. Especially at night. And if that kept happening, well, sleep becomes impossible. I didn't need anything big. I didn't need anything obvious. Just something subtle. Something repetitive. Something she wouldn't immediately understand. So I started experimenting. The first night, I didn't even do much. Just a small test. I stepped outside. Quietly. Waited until everything was calm. Then, a tiny noise. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just enough. And within seconds, the dogs reacted. Barking. Running. Alert. I stood there for a moment. Listening. Then I went back inside. That was it. No confrontation. No escalation. Just confirmation. It worked. The next night, I did it again. Same time. Same approach. Same reaction. Barking. Louder this time. Longer. I could almost imagine her inside. Trying to ignore it. Telling herself it was nothing. But here's the thing about patterns. Once your brain notices them, you can't unsee them. Or in this case, unhear them. Night 3. I adjusted slightly. Different timing. Same idea. And again. The dogs reacted. Now it wasn't random anymore. Now it was consistent. And consistency? That's what drives people crazy. Not one bad night, but multiple. Back to back. With no clear reason. Days went by. And I kept it subtle. Never overdid it. Never made it obvious. Just enough. Every night. A small trigger. A reaction. Silence. Repeat. And slowly, I started noticing changes. Her light staying on later. Her stepping outside at night. Looking around. Confused. Trying to figure out what was going on. And I'll be honest. That's when I felt it. That small sense of satisfaction. Not because I was causing chaos. But because for once, she was the one being affected. Not me. Not my kids. Her. But I wasn't done. Because this wasn't just about noise. This was about understanding something. Respect. You don't call authorities on people. Especially people who've been helping you. Over something so small. And expect nothing in return. So I kept going. Careful. Precise. Night after night. Until one evening. Something unexpected happened. She came outside. Not just to check. But angry. Really angry. Looking around. Trying to find the source. And for the first time, I realized something. She was starting to lose control. And that's exactly where I wanted her. Because the next step was going to take things to a completely different level, because what she didn't know was that I was about to make her own dogs turn every single night into a nightmare she couldn't escape. And this time, she wasn't going to be able to ignore it. At first, it was just noise. At least, that's probably what she told herself. Dogs bark. That's normal. Neighborhood sounds happen. Also normal. But what wasn't normal was the pattern. Because now, it wasn't random anymore. It was happening almost every night. Different times. Different intervals. But always just enough to wake someone up. Just enough to interrupt sleep. Just enough to make you sit there in the dark. Listening. Waiting. Wondering when it would happen again. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because lack of sleep? It doesn't just make you tired. It makes you irritable. Paranoid. Restless. It makes small problems feel bigger. And slowly, I could see it happening to her. She started coming outside more often. At first, it was subtle. Just opening the door. Looking around. Then going back inside. But a few nights later, she started stepping out fully. Standing in her yard. Looking into the darkness. Trying to figure it out. Trying to control something. She didn't understand. And every time I saw that, I knew one thing. It was working. But I still kept it controlled. Because too much would ruin everything. The key was balance. Enough to annoy her. Not enough to expose myself. So I stayed patient. Night after night. Same quiet routine. Same small triggers. Same reactions. Until one night. Everything changed. It was later than usual. Close to midnight. The neighborhood was completely silent. No cars. No voices. Just that deep, heavy quiet. I stepped outside. Carefully. Waited. Then, a small sound. And instantly, the dogs exploded. Loud. Aggressive. Way more intense than before. And that's when her door flew open. Not slowly. Not cautiously. It slammed open. She stepped out fast. Frustrated. No. Stop it, she shouted at the dogs. But they didn't stop. They kept going. Louder. And for a moment, I just stood there in the dark. Watching. Because this wasn't about me anymore. This was her versus the situation. And she was losing. She started looking around again. This time more aggressively. Walking a few steps forward. Trying to see something. Anything. But there was nothing to see. Just darkness. Silence. Between the barking. And that's when it hit her. That feeling. When something doesn't make sense. When there's no clear cause. No clear solution. Just a problem that keeps repeating. And you can't stop it. That's the worst kind. Because it gets inside your head. And stays there. The next day, I noticed something new. Her dogs were inside. All day. That had never happened before. She usually let them out regularly. But now, nothing. Which told me everything I needed to know. She was trying to fix it. Trying to control it. Trying to stop the noise. But that wasn't the real problem. The problem was the pattern. And she couldn't see that. So that night, I waited longer. Much longer. Until everything felt calm again. Until it seemed like nothing would happen. And then, a small trigger. Just one. And instantly, the dogs started again. But this time, it hit harder. Because she thought it was over. She thought she fixed it. And when it came back, that frustration doubled. Tripled. That's how pressure works. Not constant. But unpredictable. That's what breaks people. Days turned into over a week. And now, it was obvious. She was exhausted. You could see it. The way she moved. The way she looked. Short-tempered. Irritated. Even during the day. And then, it finally happened. I was outside with my kids. Middle of the day. Completely normal. And she came up to the fence. Fast. You need to control the noise, she snapped. I looked at her. Calm. Confused. What noise? I asked. Her face tightened. Don't play dumb, she said. My dogs have been going crazy every night because of something over here. I paused. Just for a second. Then shrugged slightly. Our kids are inside at night, I said. Maybe they're reacting to something else. Her expression changed. Not satisfied. Not convinced. But uncertain. Because she didn't have proof. And that's the worst position to be in. Angry. But powerless. She stood there for a moment longer. Then turned and walked away. And as she did, I realized something. The power had shifted. Completely. Because now, she was the one complaining. And I was the one staying calm. Just like she had done before. But I wasn't done yet. Because the final part of this was going to make sure she never made that mistake again, because what she didn't realize was that I was about to turn this from a small annoyance into something she would never forget. And this time, she wouldn't just be confused. She'd be completely embarrassed. After that confrontation, I stopped. Not completely. But just enough. Because the goal was never to destroy her peace forever. It was to make a point. A very specific one. And by now, I knew she had felt it. The frustration. The confusion. The lack of control. Everything she had tried to put us through. She had now experienced herself. But there was still one last step. Something that would make sure this never happened again. A few days later, the opportunity came naturally. Neighborhood meeting. Nothing serious. Just a casual gathering. People talking. Kids playing. Neighbors catching up. The kind of setting where everyone is relaxed. And more importantly, where people talk. Word spreads quickly in places like that. And I had already heard something interesting. Apparently, she had been complaining to other neighbors too. About the night disturbances. About how her dogs had been acting up. About how something strange was happening. But here's the thing. No one else was experiencing it. At least, not the way she was. So when she started bringing it up again at the gathering, people listened. But not the way she expected. More like curious. Confused. Slightly amused. I don't know what's going on, she said, clearly frustrated. My dogs keep barking at night for no reason. Someone laughed lightly. Dogs bark, they said. Another person added. Yeah, mine do that too sometimes. But she shook her head. No, this is different, she insisted. It's happening every night. I was standing nearby. Listening. Calm. Not interrupting. Not reacting. Just observing. And then someone asked the question. Have you reported it? That word hung in the air for a second. Reported. And I could see it. That tiny shift in her expression. Because now, the situation had flipped completely. A few people exchanged looks. And one of them said, "Didn't you report someone recently for noise?" Silence. Just for a moment. But it was enough. Because now, the context was there. The memory. The connection. And slowly, people started putting it together. The complaint. The kids. The officer. And now, her. Complaining. About noise. From her own house. The irony was almost too perfect. Someone chuckled. Not loudly. But enough. And then another. And just like that, the mood shifted. Not aggressively. Not confrontational. Just understanding. The kind that doesn't need words. Because everyone could see it. She had created a problem. And now she was stuck in it. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Because this was the real payoff. Not the barking. Not the sleepless nights. But this moment. Where she realized exactly how it felt to be on the other side. She tried to recover. Tried to explain. But it didn't land the same. Because now, people weren't just hearing her. They were remembering. And that changes everything. The conversation moved on. People went back to normal. But the damage? It was done. Quietly. Cleanly. Effectively. After that day, things changed. Not dramatically. But noticeably. No more complaints. No more tension. No more unnecessary drama. Her dogs still barked sometimes. But not like before. And more importantly, she never said a word about my kids again. Not once. And that's when I knew. It was over. Not because I won. But because balance had been restored. Because sometimes, people don't understand something until they feel it themselves. And that's exactly what happened here. I didn't scream. Didn't argue. Didn't escalate. I just let her experience it. In her own way. On her own terms. And in the end, that was more effective than anything I could have said. Because the best kind of revenge isn't loud. It isn't obvious. It doesn't leave evidence. It just changes behavior. And makes sure the lesson sticks. As sometimes the smartest revenge is making someone live through the exact problem they tried to create for you.